Hey everyone, Matt Munson here again at the Project Workbench, and today we're taking a look at the Valor Replicas version of the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman spear gun and its accessories. The first piece of advice I want to give about this video is to check out the link in the description, which will take you to a thread on the RPF, the Replica Props forum, that shows step-by-step the development, the motivation, the inspiration, the research, everything that went into bringing this piece to this table. It's an amazing read, and honestly, it's one of those threads that makes me remember the golden times in the RPF where it was very collaborative, people were bringing new things to the table, and the results were incredible. As you know, I'm a huge fan of this prop and of course that movie. I recently did a review of the Paragon FX Group spear gun. Beautiful piece. I'll post a link to the description for that video too. These are very different pieces. The goals were very different here. I think that's the simplest way I can state it. So this piece by Valor Replicas is 3D printed. It's much lighter than the, oh, it's so pretty. It's much lighter than the Paragon, but I think comparing the two is foolish. That is not the goal of this video. The goal is to discuss this one. So I'll stop myself right there. Let's just take a look at what we've got here. So the stringy part, it looks great. And I just noticed this thing spins. There's actual cable in there. That button is static. And I think what's great about this piece, what really attracts me to this piece, is how thorough the research was on this. The amount of thought and just meticulousness that went into this, of course, is right up my alley and really fits my brain nicely. I think this is beautiful. And this was also the piece, for the record, that the dude making this, Steve, he actually got measurements off of the real deal Returns spear gun, and he used those measurements to confirm his model. I don't recall off the top of my head if he also got pictures of that Returns piece to use this, but I think so. Worst case, he had access to those photos after that prop store auction. This little piece rotates, which is fantastic. There was a little discovery midway through that thread that this is a double. There's two fins here to that. There was a lot of dialogue about how offset this nozzle was from there. Yeah, it looks really fantastic. I'm really happy with this piece. And of course the dart, it looks like these are laser cut pieces. I think I remember this is a cast bronze piece. That all looks really cool. Let's put this whole thing together. I want to be a little more fragile or delicate with this piece as it's made of resin. But you know, by the way, I'm also an advocate of pieces for display. Like this is for, the use case for this piece is it sits on a shelf. This is not something I would wear with a costume or take out and about. And so for me, this is beautiful. And I'm seeing some of the details, like these grooves here on like the SD Studios one, those are just little lines. I see he's got these flutes, these diagonal flutes on this piece done correctly. There's a lot of little details which I've seen missed on other replicas. So I think that's really cool. Okay, so that's kind of it for this piece. And now I think like we get to the sort of the double plus good part of the video, and that is the accessories for this spear gun. In my previous video, I mentioned that it was brand new news to me when it came out that this piece, the Bolo, was actually an attachment to this piece. I didn't know that. Like in the scene where he shoots the Bolo around the Joker's ankles and affixes him to that gargoyle, I did not know that that was an attachment for this. Like I've been watching this movie for 30 years and I just noticed that when it was discussed in the thread. By the way, I just noticed that's magnetized. Like that is held in place with a magnet. Really cool. So that's fantastic. Now, let us not question the practicality of this actual prop. Like that doesn't make much sense to me, but who cares? Movie magic, right? I think this is really great. I don't know what the references were for this piece. There's a few shots of it in the movie, not super clear, but there's a good shot of like Batman aiming it up at the Joker. But I think that's fantastic. Like, that's really cool. And then, so even more so, right after the Bolo was used to hook the Joker, remember where Batman and Vicky Vale fall off the cathedral? Well, then he pulls out another attachment, which is this one. And this is the what we're calling the cathedral grapple. And I guess it goes in like so. And you can see this in the film, like when there's a really good shot of it. And this is another one where I did not know that this piece was, conceptually in the movie attached to that piece. You can see that thing getting launched up. And then when it lands in the cathedral, it sort of pops open and then it gets dragged towards that pillar where it notches in and then saves Batman and Vicky Vale. This piece is static. This does not open up. From what I understand, the hinges were just too fragile. So for this to actually be like opening and functional, it wasn't going to work with whatever 3D printer technology Steve at Valor Replicas had at his disposal. That's the way I remember it. That may not be accurate, but that's certainly my headcanon for it. Beautiful piece. I really love the way this is put together. This also has those laser cut fins here. This feels like it's 3D printed, but really great piece and a little piece of Batman Obscurata. This particular attachment was of course not included in any other replica available. So I'm really happy to have that in my collection. And again, back to what I was saying before, because my use case for this piece is static, it's a display piece, it does not irk me that this doesn't open. Like, in fact, it appears on screen just like this when they are plummeting to their deaths off the cathedral. Okay, and lastly, I don't know if this is quite the pièce de résistance. Oh, I don't want to break it. There we go. I believe that's just friction held in place. Yeah, I'm not, maybe, no, it looks like there is a magnet in there. I don't know. I just want to be gentle with it. And I just noticed that trigger does indeed press down. I didn't notice that before. Maybe it just needed to be popped once. Okay, so the last one is this piece, and this is a dart, a set of darts. So this piece, this attachment, which would go on like this, ooh, magnetized, very nice. So this attachment was actually made for production. And I'm going to assume that in an earlier draft of the script, this came into play somehow. This was had a scene where Batman shot some darts at someone. It was not used in the movie, except for you can see it very briefly, very blurry in Batman's costume vault in the Batcave. And there's some shots of behind the scenes where you get a better look at it. So made for production, yes, used in the movie, but only briefly. But I wonder, like I have an early draft of the script. I wonder if that draft mentions this. I think this, I want to say this slides up and down. Let's take a closer look at this. Yeah, so that, I guess in the, what would happen, I don't want to move it because I don't want to wreck the paint job, but there's all these darts are free moving. That's a separate piece. And I guess the gag would be, you know, he fires a dart at a bad guy, maybe it's poison, and then it shifts down and moves the next one into place. I assume that's how it would have been. But you know, it really sort of, all of these different attachments really sort of bring into focus for me how there really was a lot planned for the spear gun. A lot of thought went into, I guess, the grapnel gun and its different attachments. And, you know, it all goes by so fast on the screen. I remember reading an article, maybe it was Cinefex, about the scene, or I should say the shot, where Vicky Vale and Batman are escaping and they go up, you know, and he says, "Do you weigh, how much do you weigh?" She says like 108. And then this thing is zipped to him along his utility belt. So the gag, it looks like he like presses a button on the belt buckle. And then, you know, maybe he's making a selection for which attachment he needs. And then these two things are zipped to him so he doesn't have to reach behind him. You know, it's just kind of a cute little gag. But the time that went into that 1 second on screen is kind of amazing. And looking at all of these things here, you know, even something like this that didn't even make it on screen, the time and effort that must have gone into producing that and all those different pieces is kind of amazing. So in summary, I absolutely love this piece by Valor Replicas. I'm a huge fan of the amount of work and research and detail that went into it. I believe it to be very, very accurate, especially these two main components, which are highly documented, and the fact that the other three components are available as a set. Like, this is it. This is every attachment for this grapnel gun made for screen, as far as I know. So what this one really brings to the table is a really high degree of accuracy, in my opinion, great production, great construction, the thoroughness, and just all of those accessories. So I think this really sets this piece apart from all the others. And honestly, that's not a dig on any of the other replicas out there. I think it's really just a statement about its uniqueness. You know, every replica that I have in my collection has something, some kind of, oh, that is magnetized right there, has its own set of strengths, right? Everything brings something to the table. If it didn't, I wouldn't have it in my collection. Like that NECA one, the one that costs, you know, 20, 25 bucks. Is it accurate? Not compared to these. Is it robust? Not really. Is it fun to play with? And am I worried about dropping it if I take it to a con? Am I gonna wear that with a costume? Yes. So each replica has its own strengths, and I think this one, aside from that little bit of dog hair right there, I think this one is definitely one of my favorites and really holds a place of pride in my collection. So I want to thank Valor Replicas and Steve for making this available. By the way, he built this for me. I actually bought one of his kits, and it sat in a box for like 6 months, and I'm like, I'm never going to get to it, and I'm probably not going to do it justice. Why not just contract with the master himself to build this for me? So this is start to finish a Valor Replicas production. So really happy to have this piece in my collection. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Valor Replicas, for making this piece possible. That's all I got for this one, guys. Let me know what you think, and check out the description for some links regarding this piece. And as always, we'll see you for the next one.